The only reason why I ended up knowing about RAD was because I asked for that wheelchair, which led to the occupational therapist saying, well, we can't get you funding for the wheelchair until your home is accessible. Okay, what do I need from my home to be accessible? Well, you need to rip out the carpets, you need to put a lift in, you probably need to make your bathroom accessible, you need to widen doors. Okay, well, how do I do that? I'm so busy, and where am I going to put them in those 2 weeks while this work is getting done? That led to the whole, maybe RAD can be the ones to fill out the paper, can do everything for you, to find a contractor that can do it quickly because they know that I've got nowhere to put them. You can't just take your time doing it because you have somebody that has nowhere else to go. Yeah. I was looking after my uncle, who I took out of his care home during COVID. Just the home care program was really overrun. COVID was causing a lot of havoc. So what I was doing was just muddling my way through, doing everything on my own, trying to find these small fixes. And then eventually I got a home care case manager that said, you need to make your home wheelchair accessible if you want electronic wheelchair, which I'd asked for my uncle, which means removal of carpets, widening of doors, and other measures. Me and my siblings have kind of always looked after my uncle. He was my dad's sidekick ever since they were young. My dad passed away 2 years ago. So we just have always been involved in his life. He was always involved in our life. So in 2019, he went into hospital for some issues, and then eventually went into what's called transition care. We need to send him to a long-term care home, and I said, well, can I just take him out to my house? I didn't really know what I needed, and they just kind of made it sound like it was an impossible thing to do. And so I had to just go with what they were suggesting to me since they were the experts. At this point, lockdown was happening where I was not going to be able to go into this care home. And so I said, do you want to live with me? And he finally said, okay, because he kept, before that, anytime I'd ask him, no, I want to go home. No, I want to go home. He can't go home by himself. Nobody's there to look after. So within 1 week, I bought a long-term care bed, a Hoyer transferable lift. I bought a commode, I bought a bath chair that swivels, and it's like the stars aligned, and everything I needed was perfect because I have a small bathroom. I live in a 50s bungalow. As soon as I got the hospital bed, it's a long-term care bed, but as soon as I got it in the door, I brought him home the next day. He was so happy. I have a photo actually of the first day he was there, lying in his bed. So I had to get him a temporary wheelchair. It was just a transfer chair that he couldn't actually wheel himself. Since I had to wheel him around my house and my house was carpeted, I was trying to figure out what to do about that. So I found the office chair mats. I covered my carpet. So that's how we kind of got through the first year. Heard about RAD and went through them to get the carpets ripped out and get somebody to do that within 4 days and put in some flooring that we could move around in, and then widen his bedroom door. Darren immediately came to the house. He did the measurements, put me through to, I think they use a couple contractors. They go to do quotes with a couple contractors that they use. And the second thing I had done, I think was maybe a year later, a lift put in, like an electronic lift, like a mini elevator, to go up 3 steps to get him into my house. Initially, I had a ramp that I bought off the internet, and it was probably a very heavy, maybe a couple 100 pounds. And then I would move it onto my 3 steps and move it off anytime I needed to move him. And so there were no railings, there were no sides to it. It was every time I moved him in and out of the house was pretty risky. But getting him up was harder, and I kind of discovered that I could tip him backwards and pull him up and just hold on for dear life. And so far I didn't tip him in the 1.5 or 2 years that I had that before we got the elevator. You have to factor in will and determination, which also adds to how you can actually do it. Because if you don't have that, it's a no-go. I've had to put money in on top of that. Fortunately, I can afford it, and also I can pull out of my uncle's savings to do that. Over and above the 2 ramp subsidies for $7,500 each, equating to $15,000, I have probably put in a total of $30,000 to $40,000 of my own money in order to get my house accessible for my uncle to be comfortable in moving around and to make it easier for myself and the caregivers to care for him daily. The change for him is that he's alive, because he would have been dead. Because I took him out during COVID, and a month after I took him out of the care home, the first unit where there were 5 deaths was my uncle's unit. This is people he had dinner with every night. So he was put into a room with another person, and there was not even 6 feet between the 2 beds. He was immunocompromised. So it just, my whole entire family took a collective sigh of relief. He had sarcoidosis of the lungs. In the care home, there's a lot of inattention. You can press a button and no one's going to show up. I've witnessed it. I've made phone calls. I was sitting there, I'm talking to him on FaceTime, getting him to press the button, and nobody shows up. So if somebody drops a remote control, they're going to get the same attention as if someone's having a heart attack, because there's no triage there. It's not a hospital. He enjoys life. He can eat what he wants. He can get up when he wants. He has his own television. He has his own space. The self-managed care program that I'm on has the person directly there for him. You're not sharing 3 people with 10 other people. He loves getting out. So with the wheelchair van that we have, and now we have this elevator lift, I take him shopping, I take him to the festivals, anything that is wheelchair friendly, I try to take him out. The guy loves to go out and about. He loves to garden. He likes to have his cup of coffee. He has his cappuccino machine. Just little things, and just feeling like you have a sense of independence in your own space, even though it's my home. And so for him, it's just that freedom and independence, and not to feel like a patient that actually is being neglected. It's just more of a sense of control, I think, of your life. I think the biggest thing about RAD, and the most important thing about RAD, is it just takes something off your plate. The funding is great. Even $7,500 is going to be very helpful, but it barely scratches the surface of what's needed. That RAMP program is great that we have it, but anything over and above that $7,500 that people spend on disability costs, we're just forced to put it on our taxes, like see if the government can help pay for this or write it off against your taxes. But if you don't have money to write it off against, then it's just money you don't have. You have to look at what people's incomes are and assess based on that to see if there's extra money that can go towards that funding. Because in my opinion, our tax dollars are being used anyways to put people in care homes if they can't change their homes. Maybe people are cluing in that it's kind of cheaper for people to stay in their homes than for them to go into these facilities. Those facilities cost a lot of money to manage a person's care. So why not just have it go into a person's home, help the economy, get some contractors some work and these types of things. But the biggest part of RAD was helpful to me is it just took something off my plate, because you're just batting at things as they come and prioritizing and just managing. And so if someone else can do X amount of hours of work for you, fill in X amount of pages of paperwork, do all the measurements, and have somebody that's an expert to come in and tell you this will fit so that you do it correctly, to me that was like invaluable. Just someone taking that off your plate and doing it, and just even guiding it so that you're getting a phone call so that you have to take action instead of just putting it on the back burner, is so helpful. And then when it came time to do the elevator lift, it's just been like so easy now that my care workers can take him just to go sit in the backyard. And RAD was able to take those steps off and just get it done while you're busy fighting other fires. Definitely more funding needs to happen. Making your house accessible should be an option versus going into long-term care. And I think it should be known that people have this option. I think a lot of people think that it's not. It took me a long time to even know what was possible. I had to just muddle my way and figure it out. It is a lot of work. There's not a lot of options to go into perfect facilities that aren't going to cost you $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month, because I think it actually could cost less for people to live in an accessible home. It is very hard to be a caregiver. You have to have a lot of commitment, and everybody's needs are different. So it's not for the weak-hearted or the weak-minded. But I just feel like if people knew that there are options, then at least they can make a choice instead of just be forced into difficult decision of having to move somebody into another arrangement. So it's not easy, but I think at least people should be able to decide on their own, given the information in front of them, what they can or can't do. Just to know that it's possible and that, oh, that's not that bad. I can do this in my house. I can widen a door. I can do this. I don't even know you can get a little elevator for your outside of your house. And just the process of how do I get them on the toilet? Oh, you realize that you know how to do that because you've seen them do it in the hospital. But if you're not there to watch it, then how do you know how it's done? And I Google a lot. How do I do this? Is there a better way of doing that? I recommend you go through an agency like RAD, who has experience and who can come in and look at your house and determine what's needed. Through RAD or through some other program, see if you can speak to somebody else who's already done the work in their own house that can give you insight into what you need that you don't even know you need. It would be good to have a centralized area where people can go to so they can learn everything in a condensed amount of time versus somebody like me who learned everything in the period of 5 years, sometimes accidentally, sometimes by spending hours and hours Googling and YouTubing, sometimes by just randomly having somebody give you that information. The randomness of it is like lucky, but not consistent that everyone's going to get that same information.